Hey everybody. So I don't know what day you're watching this, but I'm recording this on wear your pajamas to work day. So I'm super cozy and I'm really excited to get starting on our Imagineering project. Today we're going to be talking about taste, smell, and mood boards. So the first thing I need you to do is head over to Disney's Imagineering in a Box and watch the video about taste and smell. Alright, so the taste and smell video had some pretty interesting stuff. I really feel like the points they wanted you to walk away with were that the food needs to make sense for where you're at. So you don't want to serve fish if you're in the middle of a place that there's no way they could get a hold of fish. Or you don't want to serve maybe ice cream where it's supposed to be cold. Or you don't want to serve fancy food in a picnic type setting. So the food that you serve needs to make sense with where you're at. I would think that probably some of the stuff that they talked about, like with, they've talked about Pirates of the Caribbean a lot, and I don't expect to eat macaroni and cheese at a restaurant that's based in this pirates world where we're seeing all these coastal places and all these different countries represented. Mac and cheese is not what I would expect to have there. So we need to make sure the food that we're serving makes sense for the area that we're in. The other main point I think they walked away with was that smells add a depth and an authenticity to your land. And they did say they make really good use of smells and how they affect people because smells affect people. When you walk into a room that smells good, you feel good. You walk into a room and it stinks, you're like, what? And then you can't shake it. It's weird. Or if you smell, maybe your grandma used to make you the best chocolate chip cookies. Well, every time you smell chocolate chip cookies, you probably think of your grandma. Or maybe you had a family member who burnt the turkey every year. Well, when you smell burnt turkey, it's kind of gross, but you're like, that's a fun memory. So the smells that we're going to encounter in our land are going to affect people, and we need to make sure that we have smells there for a reason. So the smells that I would expect in my land, since it's up and since it's kind of in a forest and there's going to be the waterfall and everything, would be very earthy smells like trees. You know, when you walk outside in like a park or a forest, you can smell, it's a little different than the regular air smell. So I'm thinking like pines and things like that. And then kind of like camping. You know how camping stuff just has this kind of like mosquito spray smell to it, or just mosquito spray in general. It has that citronella smell. So if I had places that had just the faintest amount of that, you would get the idea of we're actually on an adventure. These smells help remind us that we're on an adventure in a cool land. So the challenge that they put with that video was to create your own menu, just a simple sketch of your menu. So this is what I've created. In the movie, you see Charles Muntz take a menu from one of his dogs, and it's very small, but I did notice that it's kind of maroon colored and it had a logo on it. And I zoomed in and it kind of looked like a circle with an M, which makes sense because his last name is Muntz, and like it might have wings, which he does fly in his dirigible. So I'm thinking that that's it. So I put that logo at the top of my menu. And I kept the colors, the gold and the maroon color that I saw there. And then further into the movie, we learned that the dog that cooks, his chef's name is Epsilon. So I included a little courtesy of Chef Epsilon on my menu. And I have it kind of easy for my land because there was actually dinner served. Not every movie, video game, story, or book are going to have places where you eat. So some of you guys are going to have to come up with some really creative stuff. Mine's pretty easy though. So I watched the scene where they're eating dinner, and I couldn't really make out for sure what Carl and Charles were eating, but it's pretty clear that Russell's eating a hot dog. So my kid's part says hot dog with fries or hamburger with fries. I know Russell didn't really get French fries, but just a hot dog by itself I think would be kind of sad and maybe not very filling. So I'm going to include fries as my side. And I went back again to watch and see what Carl and Charles are eating, and I just can't make it out. it's clearly that it's some kind of nicer food. So I decided steak and grilled chicken. So I have that option for steak with steamed vegetables and rice, and grilled chicken with steamed vegetables and rice. Now I think that the more I think about this and the more I work on it, I could probably elaborate and add different side options or more choices for meats or non-meats for people who don't eat meat. But this is just my rough menu. Like they said, it's just a quick sketch. And then I included dessert. When Carl and Russell are trying to get out of the dirigible before they get into any more trouble, Charles Muntz says, "But you haven't even had dessert. Epsilon makes a great Cherries Jubilee." So I included Cherries Jubilee as my dessert since it was already in the movie. I also included a warm brownie with ice cream just because that's a dessert that a lot of people are going to like. I don't really care for cherries, but I love ice cream. So I feel like that's one thing that's true to the movie, and then one thing that people will enjoy and could be in the movie, possibly. If he can cook hot dogs and has fresh orange juice and has those other meal options, then I think a brownie is something that definitely could have been made in the dirigible. All right, so the mood board is really supposed to help give the feeling of the land. They pointed out how we have all these different individuals working on the same project that's very heavy about how to make people feel. And people take things differently. So we need a common goal that we can all refer back to and see what we're working towards. And the goal of the mood board is to feel and know. These are things you need to feel when you walk into this land. These are things you need to know when you walk into this land. So they really help drive that idea back home by using visuals mostly. Now, some people did bring up that they could use other things besides visuals. They said you could use fabric, you could use stone, you could bring in treats, you could use music. So the board itself tends to lie on visuals, but you could also include sounds and taste and textures. The mood board helps build teamwork because there are so many people working on these projects. They need to be centered and that they're all working on the same idea. Finally, the mood board gives people the sensations that you want the park goers to feel. It helps the people that you're working with understand exactly what you want your customers to go through and what you want them to experience. And that's really helpful to keep everybody understanding what the goal is here. All right, guys, that's the end of lesson 1. Thank you so much for working through this with me and trying out all these different projects. Now I want to let you know that this is going to be the last time that we do Disney's Imagineering in a Box for an optional lesson. Of course, you can always go and complete lesson 2 and 3 on your own in your free time or as a project. However, starting next week, we're going to begin tackling Pixar in a Box. I really just want to take this time to introduce you to a whole bunch of different things, and we've spent a pretty good chunk on Disney's Imagineering, so I think it's time we move on to Pixar because they have some pretty amazing ideas there too. So I'll see you next week when we start a whole new adventure.